After stopping an invasion, the people of Rhodes created the Great Colossus. It was a massive statue of the Greek god Helios that stood about 100 feet tall. No one is sure how the statue was posed. Some believe he held a torch above his head, while others believe he looked out at sea. A common misconception is that the statue stood with his legs across the harbor entrance. This would have been impossible because the construction would have forced the port to shut down, which would have been catastrophic to the economy. Many scholars agree that the statue stood near the harbor's entrance. Its bronze plating over an iron skeleton would have made the statue shine, making the port visible to ships many miles at sea. After its 12 years it took to construct the statue, it only stood for 56 years after being destroyed by an earthquake. The Lighthouse of Alexandria was created in Alexandria, Egypt, when the city was the center of trade for the Mediterranean world. The lighthouse was created to be a city landmark, but was then later used as a lighthouse to guide ships safely to the port's bay. The top of the lighthouse would produce a column of smoke during the day and a beacon of light at night to guide ships safely to the port. It stood 383 feet to 440 feet tall. The lighthouse was also a tourist attraction. Tourists could climb their way 300 feet above the sea to the observation decks. On the observation decks, the tourists would get to see a great view of the city and of the port. For almost 1500 years, the Lighthouse of Alexandria was a guide to sailors, leading them to the safety of the city. Located in the ancient city of Babylon, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon were created supposedly in 600 BC to cheer up a homesick queen. She found the dry terrain of Babylon depressing, so her husband created the Hanging Gardens of Babylon to resemble her homeland. The garden would have had many different levels of plants and trees that would hang over each other. It remains the only ancient wonder in the world that is still disputed on whether it even existed. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus was created as a tomb for the dead king Mausolus. This mausoleum is an ancient wonder because of its perfection. Some of the best ancient sculptors worked on it for years, making marvelous statues and paintings. This wonder was one of the few that was not dedicated towards any god. The finished project was one of the most unique tombs the world has ever seen. A set of steps flanked by lions led to the entrance. Many statues surrounded the outside of the building, but the most important part of the building was the chariot on top that carried the royal couple. The Temple of Artemis was built in 550 BC in present-day Turkey. It was built as a Greek temple. It was dedicated to Artemis, the Greek god of wilderness. It took 120 years to create and was built on a marshland to protect it from earthquakes. The temple held many valuable artworks from Greek sculptors. Unfortunately, the temple wasn't safe from Herostratus. Herostratus wanted to be famous, even if it was for burning down one of the wonders of the world. One night he went to the temple of Artemis and burnt it down. While the same night of the fire Alexander the Great was born, making some people of the time believe that the god Artemis was protecting Alex's birth and couldn't save her temple from burning. In 323 BC, they rebuilt the temple, and it lasted over 500 years until finally being destroyed by invaders. In ancient times, one of the Greeks' most important festivals was the Olympic Games. Like our modern Olympics, athletes would travel all over the world to compete. The games were held in honor of the king of their gods, Zeus. The Temple of Olympia was first created as a shrine, but the Greeks did not think it worthy of Zeus, so in 432 BC they made the statue of Zeus. The statue was completed in 444 BC, and it stood more than 40 feet tall and filled the entire wall of the temple. The statue itself was made of gold and ivory plates, and would have been an incredible sight to see. The Great Pyramid of Giza is the oldest on the list of world wonders, and is in fact the only one that is still standing today. It was created 30 BC and serves as a tomb for Pharaoh Khufu. There is many debates about how a structure that large could be created so long ago. Modern engineers have calculated that Egyptians using copper tools and a large slave workforce would have been able to build the structure in 20 years. A Greek historian tells us that machines were used to lift stone to the top of the pyramid. While it is possible lever and cranes could be used, historians believe that a ramp was used to get blocks up the pyramid. Many are puzzled by the size of this ramp. A straight ramp would have been too long and require more materials than it would to make the pyramid. A zigzag ramp, or possibly a spiral ramp, could work. A likely ramp architects believe was used was a spiral internal ramp. At 480 feet tall, the Great Pyramid was the tallest structure in the world for 3,800 years.